Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Next Move podcast. And if this is your first time listening to the show, we are a podcast that share stories of impact and innovation in India. And today, I am lucky enough to be joined by Dhruv Khanna, who is the co-founder of Triton Foodworks, who is a perfect example of innovation and persistence and overcoming challenges, especially we were just talking before we got on the show, that they're facing even right now. So they are a hydroponics company, which is a new age way of farming. And I'll really let Dhruv get into it because he'll be able to explain it much better than I am. So I'll bring him on now. Hey, Dhruv, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. But where I start all of these podcasts is really the story behind Triton Foodworks and your own story as well. So what led you guys to starting Triton Foodworks? What's your background and how did you come to it?
Yeah. So basically, I'm a mechanical engineer. I did my mechanical engineering, and then I went to Singapore to pursue my master's from NTU Singapore. While I was in Singapore, I'd always thought, I will just give starting up a chance before getting into a job, because I know it gets more difficult to jump from a job to a startup. So I thought I'll just risk everything before getting into a job, and then the safest option is obviously to get in a job. So I was just actively discovering things while my master's was ending, and I spoke with Ullas is my childhood friend who's also a co-founder, on a normal catch-up call, and his mother was just diagnosed with ILD, which is a degenerative lung disorder. uh, she's she recently also went to lung transplant, but she's recovering fine now. So he was just finding out different ways to make her mother stay in a healthy environment, which is which has lesser pollution. And he realized that even if he moves his mother to a farm in an isolated place, there are still risks of pesticides and how that we get into agriculture. Just reading it online, we were discussing this, and he told me that there's a thing called hydroponics. You can actually grow crops without soil. During that time, we had a bridge in Stanford, where we actually uh, discovered. I visited a few farms in the US. I was back when I was back in Singapore. I visited a few farms in Singapore, and I started looking at how this thing works. If it's actually possible or not. Because back 6 years back, 5 years back, it was quite difficult to believe that you can grow crops without soil. It's still new, but it was quite new back then. So we saw everything. We found out people who could actually help us in getting into this. And I decided to come back to India, and we just jumped into it without actually getting a lot of info. We just started our first farm in Sainik Farms, and then we've been moving forward since then.
Wow. So, this story of Ullas's mom, I'm very sorry to hear that she's going through that. I hope she's getting better.
Yeah.
But it makes so much sense because hydroponics is solving so many of our current agricultural issues. Could you talk about the process of hydroponics? What is it? How is it different to traditional farming as we know right now?
So to simply put it, hydroponics is just a way to grow crops without soil. We're just reducing the inputs that go into growing a plant. So not using soil, which is the major cause of pathogens, bacteria, viruses in what we eat, by different medias. So we're replacing soil. We're replacing the nutrients that they get from the soil by liquid soluble nutrients, water soluble nutrients. And in some cases, we are also optimizing the lights. So there are a huge variety of hydroponic systems, ranging from the least effective one is around 65, uses 65% lesser water as compared to traditional soil farm. And the most effective one saves almost 98% water as compared to traditional farm, while increasing the growth by 20 to 300 times. So the most effective system that we have, we're growing that system right now at our farm, is 300 times more effective as compared to traditional soil farm. So typically hydroponics is just using lesser resources to grow better quality food.
Wow. So, that's incredible because, I think we've all been reading and seeing this all over the news, not especially right now because of COVID, but you know, uh, food scalability is going to be a huge issue for us moving forward, right? With our population growing so
Right.
fast and the world's population growing so fast, will we be able to scale at the rate that we need to? And I think, like you're saying, targeted farming as you're able to do increases your yield rates, lowers the amount of
Right.
water. So it just feels
Right.
like the best way for us
Yeah.
to move forward. Let's jump
Right.
back into getting to the business. So you've moved back to India. You're with Ulas, and
Yeah.
what's the next
Yeah.
step? How did you guys go about it?
So apart from Ulas, I have another co-founder called Deepak Kukureja. We three co-founded the company. Actually, we five co-founded the company. Two other people, Devanshu and Vaibhav. We together founded the company in during the first farm in Sainik Farm. And then, as it happens with any other startup, we started facing initial hiccups, failures. The first one was quite early. I think it was just 4 months after starting our farm. So we actually bootstrapped our startup initially. We just invested our own savings. Some took money from their family as a loan. I took some money which I'd saved from a scholarship which I got in Singapore. So we just took some money from our own savings and some loans from family. We started our first farm pretty much on a very low budget. Then we started the first crop, which was strawberries. We did very good in growing strawberries in Sainik Farm. And then the summers came. March we started setting up a greenhouse because we needed a greenhouse for growing in a controlled environment. Scenic Farms is we were able to just get a place there through Ullas's contacts. But Scenic Farms is a very posh area in Delhi, and it's quite. There's a Supreme Court case going on against Scenic Farms because it was supposed to be an agricultural land, and people have started staying there. So there's a lot of people aren't supposed to. They're not allowed to build houses in Scenic Farms. So we were just building a greenhouse, which is obviously allowed. And we just got some people from the local police object and asking for some bribes, to which we refused because one, we were against it. Second, we were on a very low budget. So the next day our farm was just demolished by the MCD because there are orders given in the local department that if they see any activity of building a house, you can just demolish without a notice. So without our knowledge, the next day the farm was demolished, and I was very nearby. It was a weekend, so I just came and I saw everything was just we spent so much money, uh, and everything was just demolished. So all of us were in shock for a
Mm-hmm.
couple of days, and then we just we thought this has to happen now. We'll just move on. We tried contacting the local departments. We met the local MLA. We complained to a couple of places, and in a few days the local engineer, the junior engineer from the MCD, came, and he apologized, saying that he thought we were building a house. So they're completely different things. It's built out of metal. It doesn't look like a house, but yeah, whatever. So we thought we'll take a step back. We took some time to figure out an actual agriculture place, which is not under any scrutiny or any other cases. And we found that out. We moved whatever is left out of that broken structure. We took that out, and we obviously invested more money. And we built a greenhouse at a proper agriculture land in North Delhi.
Wow. So I think that is, something that most people will really not be able to resonate with, because you guys had built out something and you had got a profit on your growing your strawberries. You started everything up from scratch, not knowing anything from hydroponics.
Yeah,
And then the Delhi municipality comes in and says, look,
yeah,
you're building on agricultural land. You're building a residential home, which
yeah,
is BS, as you know, because you were
yeah,
building an agricultural facility and all they wanted was a bribe. And
yeah.
I think, so two major things that happened as a result of this. You guys refused to give the bribe. How come? Like, did you think that this is just not part of the value, and you just thought we will be able to go through this, or you didn't feel that was the right thing to do?
So it was actually both. So first of all, we're not doing anything wrong. So there's nothing
Mm-hmm.
that can stop us from actually growing in an agricultural land. We're allowed
Mm-hmm.
to build do agricultural activity even in residential areas, in commercial areas, and obviously in agricultural land. So agricultural activity is not prohibited. We were just building a greenhouse on an agricultural land. So we were like, there's nothing wrong that we are doing. Even if something comes up to this stage that we get an order from MCD, we can definitely fight it back. But there was no way we were going to pay a bribe, and the bribe amount that they were asking for was almost the cost of a greenhouse. So first, it's ethically wrong. Second, we were just doing the right thing,
Wow.
and
So
we also request them that we are just the age of your kids, and we're very young chaps. We cash strapped also, but nothing helped.
I find that so crazy that just the next day it's gone. And
Yeah.
another major thing, and this was what I was talking about, when I did the introduction. You guys are a story of persistence. So what happened here was two of your founders decided, look, we've been through the whole process of starting this up. Now I don't know if we can do it again. We've invested so much time, energy, money. How do we move forward? Can you talk about a little bit about that, losing two of your founders and then choosing to
Yeah.
move forward again?
So basically, the first hiccup was this one where we lost one of our founders. Just to correct you,
Okay.
because he realized that he really liked the business. He really liked what we could actually do with this business and the amount of resources that we're saving and the impact that we are making to the world. But it's like this is like I really can't uh, do this business. It's not my cup of tea. Like just I'll just stop here. So that is so one was obviously losing the greenhouse and so much money plus losing a founder. So two things happened simultaneously, and we after that we just four of us we decided we took some time, did some brainstorming, and we decided we'll just move on. We'll not stop here. It's been it's just been a couple of months since we started, so we'll just go on. We'll see what future has for us. The second hiccup came just after we built our second farm. We've actually got some interest from one of the social investing firms in India, and we spent almost 4 5 months with them. They visited our farm. We visited their office in Mumbai. Numerous calls lasting a couple of hours, and we finally, got an approval that they're ready to invest in our company, and everything was done. So they had the term sheet ready. They had the final approval from their GPs. So there was just the last step, which is there in any investment, which is the due diligence, the legal and the financial one. During the legal due diligence, there was a very small hiccup that came. One of our founders was involved in another company with a similar interest, and he was supposed to resign. But the other partner in that company threatened him, and due to for some legal action, and he just couldn't take a call back then. So, which basically pissed off the investor because they were ready with the check, they were ready with everything, and that was a good amount of investment that we were raising. But the investment didn't go through. Just at the last step, we almost had the check in our hands. So that was the second hiccup where we lost our other founder. He was like, it's too much for me right now. I will just wrap up and go. He actually wanted to do an MBA, so he further went to do his MBA from ISB Hyderabad. And then since then, we've just been three people. They, I really hope that I've seen them through now, so I know there's not going to be lesser than three now.
Wow. And that's incredible. You guys keep coming up and then something comes back to push you down. I wonder, what is the mindset that you go through? You said you guys took some time off, but do you go through that thinking where you're like, is it worth it? Should we move forward? Or did you always know we're on this mission and we have to do this and we have to keep moving forward?
No, so it really depends on the intensity of the failure. So many times, probably more than times we thought that we have to move on. we thought that we should probably just stop here. I also had this thought that, I have just completed my master's from Singapore. I should probably just wrap up and just, do a nice paying job in Singapore. Just, think about entrepreneurship later in life. But something just kept on moving. We thought that we should just give this one more try, and then at the another failure, one more try, and that has just kept on moving. And there's so many more things that you learn from a failure. I've realized that we would have been nothing without these failures. It would have been boring without these failures. Like, we wouldn't go personally. The company wouldn't have grown this much. So they're really important for a person to grow, because you can't really grow professionally without failures. You fail, then you figure out how do you overcome this failure the next time, and this keeps us moving.
Wow. Yeah, I think, that's something that I've seen a lot of people I've interviewed say something very similar. You learn the most from those failures, and especially pushing through those are the moments that, really reinforce your mission.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about, so after the first, municipality of Delhi came in and, demolished the farm, you guys did a little bit of a pivot, right? You moved into consultancy for a little bit to gain some funds.
Right. After the greenhouse was demolished, we started another farm in Mumbai. There's a place called Wada near Mumbai. So we started another farm in Mumbai, and then we started getting a lot of interest from people who were just generally interested to get into hydroponics. People in the real estate who weren't actually making a lot of money in real estate. The market was stagnant, so they just wanted to diversify their fields. A couple of IT guys, childhood friends who were wanting to, just now fulfill their entrepreneurship dream. Similar people who have consumed amount of savings. So we got interest from them. We were confident that we are, now quite proficient in the hydroponic industry. The systems, we designed a lot of systems, and we had our own in-house greenhouse team. So we thought we'll just get into consultancy. We are bootstrapped. We need funds to grow, and this is the best way to learn as well as earn some money. So we got into consultancy, and we did a lot of projects. We did a couple of them in Maharashtra, a couple of them in Karnataka, a few of them in Delhi NCR also. Pretty much everywhere. Recently, we've also we're doing a project actually in the US.
So you've continued the consultancy.
Not really. So we discontinued the consultancy in 2018. We thought that this was just a short-term thing that we wanted to do to gain some more experience, to earn some money. But the core of our business was to grow and sell. So, we wanted to grow good quality produce and sell it directly to the customers. So we continued doing that after 2018. And since then, we've been taking very selective projects, which we think are good for the growth of our company. Like, we set up a project in Kolkata at a 5-star hotel. And that hotel now produces all its herbs consumption from that indoor farm. The second project that we took was the one I was just mentioning in the US. It is in a partnership. So we'll just get a profit sharing of whatever we get from the farm. And it's a greenhouse as well as an indoor farm. Big area.
Okay, so that's a very cool move that you guys decided to do, and it really put you guys back on the path to work on what you wanted to do. So you did a little bit of a pivot while investing resources into what you guys wanted to do. I want to know, so we know you've come through all these failures and you've come through stronger as a result, and you've done pivots, and it's very typical startup, moving through toward being successful. Now, I want to know, bringing in the actual customers for your hydroponics, because hydroponics is something new here. You have to educate the market. Not everybody knows about it. And is it more expensive for the regular consumer to buy because it's not at the scale yet, maybe? So could you talk about the whole process of educating the market and bringing in consumers for this business?
Sure. So back when we started, it was quite difficult to make people understand what hydroponics was, because even we were new to hydroponics. But since then, we've there are a lot of companies that have started coming in the hydroponic space, including ours, and we do our own marketing efforts. A lot of bigger companies do their own marketing efforts, and that has really helped in educating the customers. So we combined all the companies which are in the hydroponics domain are making this effort, and we're just right now we're at such small stage that we are not a threat to each other in terms of the competition. So we're just helping each other out. We also help a couple of companies if they have a problem in selling the produce. So we're slowly just educating the customers about what are the benefits of hydroponics, how it's better than what you actually get from the market, and what impact it has on the resources which are limited.
Can we get to a point where hydroponics is kind of the main form of farming in India and even globally? Because it's something so new. From what I've read, again, I'm a very beginner in it. I've just started doing research. You can only grow certain types of vegetables and fruits and stuff like
Right.
that. But can it get to the point where it's almost ubiquitous because it's healthier for us, pesticide free, and it's much more efficient? So it feels like the way to go. Can we get to that point?
See, it's definitely possible. Theoretically, it's possible, but right now it's very hard to say if we can actually replace growing everything that we eat in hydroponics, because there we consume a lot of stuff which is grown on trees. We consume a lot of stuff which is grown on thousands of acres of land, which is like rice and wheat. So the cost of growing in hydroponics is definitely higher because we are giving the plant exactly what it needs, rather than growing in the weather that it actually grows. So
Mhm.
theoretically, definitely possible. And if an area like Dubai, Middle East, it's becoming quite popular. They're not able to grow anything. Especially due to the COVID-19 pandemic, countries started realizing that they can't rely on other countries for the food that they eat. Like Singapore recently announced a lot of funds to local companies who are growing leafy vegetables and poultry. Countries are slowly realizing that they will have to at least whatever they can grow locally. Like the Middle East doesn't have a lot of water and arable land. They will have to do hydroponics to at least grow whatever they can. So this enables us to grow a lot of things, majorly leafy vegetables, some fruits like cherry tomatoes and strawberries, peppers, cucumbers. But we are testing out different varieties also, different types of other crops, which right now do not make economic sense, but gradually they might. And then we'll definitely, I can't commit that we'll be able to grow everything that we eat hydroponically, but a majority of the things we can definitely grow, and we can just give space and more resources to things which actually require those resources.
So is the innovation in this space really being able to grow a new vegetable or fruit that the others haven't figured out yet? Or is it like developing the technology, or is it everything encompassing in, really separating yourself from the other companies in the market?
So I think the way in which we're different is that we started everything from the scratch. So
Hmm.
we have our own systems, we have our own greenhouse team, we have designed our own indoor systems. We just work continuously. The R&D hasn't stopped since day one. So we work continuously to make sure that the systems are effective. They're utilize even lesser resources. We're able to grow more, and we're as cheap as possible, because we currently are in a country like India. People do not really pay a very high price for whatever their fruits and vegetables and all that stuff. So currently, also we are the cheapest in the market as compared to other hydroponic players, and we aim to be that forever. So we continuously keep on testing different ways, different techniques that we're able to grow more. The global average of an indoor farm is around 7 to 8 pounds per square feet, whereas our indoor farm is able to grow 12 pounds per feet.
So I think it's a good place to wrap up. But I just want to talk about one last point, which is, where do you want Triton Foodworks to be in 10 years? Where do you see it moving to? And what do you see its position being?
So as I just told you that we just entered the market. the US market. We're also exploring Singapore and the Middle East. We really want Triton Foodworks to be a global company, which is present in all the continents, say in 10 years time. And we really hope to make a bigger impact on the world that we're making right now, than we're making
And
right now.
and I'm sure Triton Foodworks will do it, through all the challenge. From what I've heard from this interview and doing my research on the company, you guys are just masters of going through challenges, coming out even stronger. So I'm sure out of COVID-19, you guys are going to come out even stronger. I want to ask one thing, personal to Dhruv Khanna. What is your ambition? What is the mission that you are on? And what kind of impact do you personally want to make?
So Triton Foodworks has enabled me to do so many things which I never imagined, which no one imagined that I will be able to do. We have been a part of the United Nations environment, which I forgot to mention in our previous calls. We are a part of the Green Tech Startup Hub. It's so great to meet policymakers and people who actually have an impact in changing the world. So I really want to be growing at this pace or even a faster pace, simultaneously come through a lot of failures and overcome those failures, because they're really important for a person to grow, and just make a good impact in the world. So we know that we are running out of resources much sooner than expected. So I really want the Triton Foodworks, and if I have any more ventures to come up, they should focus on saving the resources, saving whatever we have left in the world, and make world at least livable for the next generation.
That's an awesome mission, and I think one that India and the world needs, more than anything right now. Right. So I think that's a great place to wrap up. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I very highly recommend that you continue to follow the Triton Foodworks story and Dhruv Khanna on their mission to enable us moving forward. Dhruv, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Thanks everybody for listening. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be releasing more stories of change and impact in India weekly. So thanks everybody for listening. See you on the next one.